Seth Green is quite possibly one of the best voice directors in the business.
Autobots transform and roll out.
Everyone loves it.
Princess Peach or Toad.
Like, what am I watching, man?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Robert from Tales from the Film Set, and I've got a pleasure to announce somebody amazing that's right down there. That is the one, the only Bob Bergen, and you may know him as the voice of Porky Pig. You may know him as Luke Skywalker, and all the million other projects he's been in. Like one thing I seen that you were in was Toy Story. You were one of the Army Men.
I was in.
How the frick are you, sir?
I was in 2, and I was in 3, and I'm in 5 right now.
Yes.
But
So
I didn't.
how are you, sir?
I didn't do the first one. That was before my time, and I didn't get to do 4, but I got to do 2, 3, and 5. So hey, listen,
3 out of 5's not bad.
3 out of 5.
Yeah.
It's funny, on IMDb, it's got you credited in the first and second one. So
well, you know what? IMDb is one of the most how do I say this nicely? Unreliable.
Flexible.
Unreliable. A lot of my career is not on it, and then it lists me doing things that I've never done, but I don't correct it, and here's why. Sometimes it gets me a job.
there you go.
Fair.
It's the Wikipedia, basically, of movie database.
These are all fan, I guess, contributed and run, and I've never adjusted anything on social media. I've seen Bob Bergen is worth this much money. I'm like, he wishes. I've seen.
If it's on the internet, it must be true.
Bob, different spellings of his name. There's somebody Bergan. That's because on one thing they misspelled my name in the credits, and I really don't care. So I never corrected them. Also, they're not going to go back and spend the money to correct that. But this is the stuff that happens behind the scenes that I'm not sure if anybody's interested in.
Wow.
Nice. Hey, listen, like you said, if it lands you extra work, all the better.
Exactly.
A resume that lasts for basically that precedes yourself, though.
What's that?
A resume that precedes yourself in this case too.
Well, kind of. I mean, I just did an audition today, and they said that they want resumes, and most voiceover actors don't have one. We have an IMDb page. So my agent said, just make a PDF of your IMDb page, and I sent it in, and the comment I got back was, holy cow, this goes on forever. And I'm like, why, thank you. If you're a decently successful voice actor, and I've been doing this since the early 80s, it's vast in a good way.
And it's funny because when you mentioned that the audition process, obviously that's vastly changed over the decades. Originally showing up in studio, do a couple of voices, a cassette tape, and now so much work is done.
Well, I did it before cassettes. My first demo was reel to reel, and actors. I spent $10,000 a year snail mailing my demos, trying to get work. But we all had to. I was a poor 18-year-old fresh out of high school when I started with my first agent, and it was just expected of you. You were going to send out your demos. And, why was it so expensive? Well, you had to have the reel-to-reel demos reproduced. You had to have crack and peel labels to put on, padded envelopes. I had a typewriter. It was my parents' dining room table. It was like an assembly line. And my mom said, we can do this, but if we're having a dinner party, you got to move it. Oh, okay, that's fine. But, I worked 5 days, 7 nights a week from age 18 to 23 because I had to spend a fortune just promoting and trying to get a job. Today, it's all free. You do it online.
Yeah. And then, of course, obviously, so much of it is remote, too, like Source Connect and things like that, too.
Yeah, but if you really want to work in animation, starting out, you got to live in L.A. You can move after you're established, but if you really want to do it, because people are coming here every day trying to do it, I just recently, I worked on an animated feature. It was my 12th session outside my home studio since COVID. I've only had 12. I like working from home.
Fair. And the nice thing about that, obviously, is the fact that you don't have to necessarily wear pants.
Well, from the waist up, like right now, you guys don't know. You have no from here up. It's pretty and red. From here down, I'm comfortable.
I'm in sweats. I'm in sweats and no shoes right now. So yeah.
I mean, hey, it's just like Porky. Porky doesn't wear pants either.
Well, it's very freeing.
That's obviously something on in your case here too, that when you go to a party, everyone is going to sit there and ask you to do voice. Oh, can you say this is Tweety Bird? Can you say this is Porky? And I don't know how willing. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to do that, but I would imagine it's probably hit or miss about your desire to maybe do something like that.
Well, first of all, I have a home and I have a lifestyle because of what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I think any voice actor who says, "I'm sorry, I won't do that." Look, here's the deal: we're not proctologists. No one's going to come up to a proctologist in a party and say, "Can you create your career for me?" But when you do something like this, and I'm a very shy person. Just deep down, I'm pretty shy. So I'm not going to go in and announce, "Here's what I do." I know a lot of actors who love the fan conventions and love the selfies, and they show every day posting something about that. And I post when I'm promoting something, but I don't like attention, and I'm private. That's just who I am. But if someone comes up to me, "I heard you're Porky Pig. Can you say something?" Or it might be something like from something I did years ago that a fan would know. Like Bucky the Squirrel in The Emperor's New Groove. "Ooh, I heard you did that. Can you do it?" Not only am I not going to say no, I'm going to happily do it. But I usually say, "What do you want me to say?" I keep it clean because I've got an affection for these characters and what I do. Some people ask me to do some very rude things. I'm like, "No,
Sure.
Can't say that. Sorry."
Nice. Rob?
I was gonna say, so one of my favorite characters, obviously, that you do is Porky, and I know it's been a character that has meant to you for most of your life. I know from the research I got to do on you that you've been wanting to do this character since the age of 5, and I just gotta say, I admire your story of how supportive your parents and family were with your career and stuff. I mean, you don't just hear the average story of oh, here's a bunch of phone books. Find Mel Blanc's number, and here you go, kid.
Yeah.
And then how you got the recorder and stuff. To my mind, it's just mind blowing that everything got to line up perfectly that way. Speaking of Porky, what I was wondering is, did Mel ever get to hear you as Porky? I know you got the role after he passed,
No,
but okay.
no, and I would never
Okay.
do it for him. I mean, I called him up as you were kind of alluding to.
Right.
I met him. I crashed a recording session and met him. I met him one other time. Bill Farmer, who's a buddy of mine, he is the voice of Goofy. He and I went to a bookstore in Studio City when Mel Blanc was he wrote an autobiography and he was signing it. So both Billy and I stood in line and got a autographed copy of the book. But no, I would never. Even when I called him with the goal to want to do Porky Pig, I never said. He said, "Have you created any voices?" And I did my little bubble voice, which became Bucky the Squirrel. But I would never be so tacky and rude to say, I'd like to do what you do. So no, never would I do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
That's fair.
I want to say congrats on 30 years of Space Jam.
Thank you.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Cool. Am I on there?
And one. You were not on there. We have not officially
we
met
have
at
to
a
do something
convention
about
yet.
that.
Yes, we do. We got I've got Wayne Knight on here, Frank Welker, D. Bradley Baker, Maurice, Bill Farmer, speaking of him, and Billy West. And this is one of my favorite items that I own that I've been a fan for a very long time because I'm from Chicago.
Okay.
So, and I was born in 97. So my entire room as a baby was Space Jam stuff and
awesome.
And big fan of Jordan. Do you have any fun memories on working on Space Jam?
So many. I've got fond memories of trying to get the damn job. because no, because they make us audition. If there's something big, especially in I think we did the recording 94, 95. I think it came out in 96. And I'd only been doing Porky since 1990. So I remember the millions of auditions. I remember the last callback. It was at a place called LA Studios. It was down to 5 of us. And the casting assistant comes out and starts handing out the copy. And I was the last person to get a script. And the guys they passed the copy to looked at the script like they were looking at, I don't know, your mother died, or you're being kicked out of your apartment. They just looked like they were in shock. Well, they wanted us to do Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be, because they figured if you could do Shakespeare as a Looney Tunes character and stay in character and relay the story, if you knew Shakespeare as Porky Pig, you could probably do a good job with a regular script. And I looked at the copy. I was like, oh, I got this. I know I've got this. I have so many stories about that. Ivan Reitman never referred to us, or at least me, as my name. I was Porky or Tweety or Marvin, depending what I was doing that day. Hey, Porky, come here. It was kind of odd. I found him to be a bit arrogant and not a terrific voice director. I got to meet Billy West for the first time on that film, and that was, I mean, it was very, and D. Bradley Baker. Both of those guys, I think, was one of their first, well, I know it was D's first time as a Looney Tune. I think it was Billy's too. Lovely people, we've become lifelong colleagues and friends, and to have something as, you knew it was monumental when you were working on it. It was the first live action hybrid Looney Tunes movie that I knew of. And you don't know if anything is ever going to be successful when you work on something, but I knew it was special. And I'll tell you guys, a lot of the script was ad-libbed.
That's
a lot
that's
of
awesome.
what we did was ad-libbed. I have a copy of the shooting script, and it's kind of sort of nothing like what became the movie. And then sometimes you'd ad-lib something and they kept it, and they'd give you get to the next session and what you said is now in the script. So didn't get paid as a writer, but that's okay. I got paid as a pig.
And it's mind-blowing as somebody I've watched that movie over 100 times. And I just found out recently, you talked about it in a different interview, how you never actually got to meet Michael Jordan. And it's crazy because in the movie, it would seem like you guys are best friends. All the Looney Tunes are best friends with Michael. And then to find out that, they put Michael in a separate room and then the Looney Tunes in a separate room. It's mind-blowing to me.
I actually asked my agent at the time, can you negotiate a deal? I'll do it for scale minimum for the voice actors to be on the set. So the on-camera actors had somebody to work off of.
Sure.
Well, the problem was they were shooting the live action while we were recording the voices. So we didn't have the time to do that. But I think I agree with you. Michael Jordan did a great job. I was impressed. He was talking to nothing. I think he was talking to maybe a tennis ball that was supposed to be Tweety.
Right.
I'll show you guys something cool. You want to see? So this was given to me by one of the producers. This is a 3D model of Tweety from Space Jam that the animators used to CGI when they were drawing the character. Now I'm holding. I'm holding him like this because
he's missing his little footy. He doesn't have to like it. I don't know when it broke off, but it broke off a really long time ago.
I've got tons of that stuff, which is kind of cool.
That's the funny thing about stuff like this in the industry. You have such unbridledly vivid memories that, you could describe for an hour straight, and yet stunningly is 30 years ago. And it doesn't feel like that with the industry.
And just the opposite happens too, because I will be at Comic Cons or just signings, and people come up to me and ask me about so and so, and I'm like, did I do that? Because I rarely, if ever, watch my work. If I saw Space Jam in the theater 10 years ago with D. Bradley Baker and Jocelyn Blue, who was one of the nerdlings, whatever they were called. And I turned to D at one point and I go, all right, I hear our voices. I mean, this is us in this movie. I have no recollection of ever saying those words. Because you have to understand, when you record a movie, it is recorded out of sequence, just like when they shoot a movie. And all they show us are the scenes we're doing or that day. They don't show us the whole. I never saw the whole script until after we did it. That's just the way it's done. So when I do an animated feature, I'm only working on the scenes I'm in, and then if I go see it, I'm like, oh, that's the story. Oh, I would have played that totally different if I knew that's the story.
Well, that's the other side of it too. Is that when you're doing takes that, for example, say you remember, and you're like, oh, you think, okay, I love 8 of these takes, and then they end up using the one. You're like, oh, I hated this so much. Why did they use this one and not the other one? In the moment, sometimes you immediately know this is going to be gold, and they're like, nope, we're going to use this one instead.
And I'm a control freak. And by the time the movie comes out or a TV show, it could be 1 to 4 years ago that I recorded that. Or they edit out like a punchline, and you're like, it doesn't work anymore without that line. But especially for TV, they're like, it's 22 minutes. We got to tighten this. We got to take out some stuff. But that's one of the reasons why I don't like watching my work, because of that issue of being a control freak. I'm not able to control it, so it's easier not to watch. I don't like to cringe. I'll watch maybe an episode or 2 of a series I've done, but there are some shows. I'm on Spidey and His Amazing Friends right now. I think it's still going.
It is.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it once, but I hear it's very good.
Did you ever get to watch Looney Tunes Back in Action? I know you played Porky in that as well. Oh,
sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was not a good. That was not a good experience.
What happened?
Working on it was a great experience because I got to work with Joe Dante, who had directed me in my first movie, Gremlins. And
yes,
I don't think he really remembered me from Gremlins, even though I did several days on it. No, that was Back in Action. I loved the animation. I thought the animation was superb. I thought that one little scene of Porky with Speedy in the commissary, where Porky says something like,
at first they tell me to leave out the stutter, then they tell me it's not funny, put it back in. It's a pain in the butt being politically correct.
Which I thought was hysterical, because I've been saying that since 1990, because sometimes they're like, ooh, take out the stutter, it's offensive. Ooh, it's not funny if you don't do the stutter. Loved that. The process of working on the film, and I'm writing about this in a book right now, not enjoyable. We were working with a producer who was difficult to work with. They were doing shorts that they were going to release theatrically leading up to Looney Tunes Back in Action. And they were, I mean, I'm not a prude, but some of the jokes were off color. And the way this guy wanted me to play Porky made me sound like Alvin the Chipmunk stuttering. It was terrible. So, and I'm not contrary. I'm happy to take lousy direction. My job is to act. Their job is to direct me. But these are the Looney Tunes, and these were my babies. And I was difficult to work with. I will admit it. And a month or so into it, I left the recording session, went to my agent's office, and said, if this is the way they're going to portray these characters from here on, which is what this producer told me they were going to do, I said, I want to quit. And my agent said, you can't quit. They just fired you. And by the way, then I was angry because if I quit, it's my choice.
Sure.
And then I don't know how long later, I was told that these shorts were shelved, and this producer was out of the picture. And would I please come back and do Looney Tunes Back in Action? So the moral. Oh, and then right after that, I got a call from Tony Cervoni, who had worked. I worked with him on Space Jam, and he said, "We're doing a new series on Duck Dodgers, and we'd like you to play Cadet. Want to come to the studio and see some of the character designs and just give us an idea of what you think of the backgrounds and storyboards?" I said, "Sure." Moral of the story is, guys, I don't care what it is you want to do in life, stick to your morals, stick to your ethics. It's okay to say no. It may break your heart at some point, but you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, did I make the right decision for me?
In this case here also, and this is where I think Hollywood's having a problem with this right now. You look at the legacy of the character as well as being, in many ways, and almost say bigger than yourself. So you see Porky, you see characters that were invented and created by and voiced by Mel Blanc.
Sure,
and it's like WWMB. What would Mel do?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you that when I first got the job, and by the way, nobody who does a classic character has a contract, a lifetime contract. We get a contract for the job we're doing. So the day you're doing that voice, you're the voice. You're the voice of that character. In between, you're just you doing other things. When I first got the job, first job, they would play me a 15-20 minute reference of Mel Blanc before I would get to the mic. Some of the samples were from the 30s, some from the 40s, some from the 50s, and I would say, "Well, which one do you want?" And they'd say, "Well, they're all Porky." I said, "Well, no, Porky evolved. Mel evolved." I said, "Look, all things evolve. All TV shows, live action or animated. Watch the first season of The Simpsons compared to today.
Oh, yeah.
Very different characters. Watch the first season of MASH compared to season 11. Very different characters. So, unless I'm told this is the flavor we're looking for, my sweet spot for Porky is about 1953, 1956, Duck Dodgers, Drip Along Daffy, Robin Hood Daffy. And this is why I so liked working on Chuck Jones, on Duck Dodgers, the series, because it was so Chuck Jones. And
Chuck Jones knew animation too, not just there, but Tom and Jerry and a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, and I just thought, each one of the directors, Briz Freeling, Robert McKimson, Bob Clampett, they all had their style of the characters. My favorite was Chuck, but I heard that Chuck did not like Space Jam.
Really? Yes.
Really did not like Space Jam. I understand that. I didn't like a lot of the stuff he did for television towards the end of his career because I thought he became a caricature of himself. Even the full animation stuff, I was like, dude, ease up on those thick lines. The model sheets. There's a stance. There's a subtlety to your earlier stuff where everything's very blatant in your face. But it was Chuck Jones, and he was a god to animation. So I would never say that to him. But, I totally respect that he didn't love Space Jam. I don't know this to be true, but I heard rumors that he wanted to be involved in Space Jam, even as a consultant, and was not asked. So maybe that kind of, ruffled his feathers. Who knows?
Could have somewhat, yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
I remember, so I got to meet Joe Dante a couple of years ago at a convention, and we did talk about Looney Tunes Back in Action, because I don't have a show, but I also have the comic book of Looney Tunes Back in Action with a bunch of signatures on it. And he was telling me about kind of what you're saying, that he didn't like the way the characters were portrayed in Space Jam, and that's why in Looney Tunes Back in Action, they wanted the characters to be actually portrayed how he saw the Looney Tunes and stuff.
Right.
And that's why they got Joe to come in and stuff. That's what Joe was saying. And I was gonna say, speaking of Space Jam, one of my favorite parts. Yes, I love your line that you were talking about the stuttering. But during, I think around that same scene is when we had Casey Kasem yelling at Matthew Lillard. One of my favorite the dinner scene, that
Yeah.
little cameo there,
Oh, it was.
and it was
I wanted more of that. I wish they had more of that. Joe Dante.
yeah,
Joe Dante was also, his passion project was a live action movie called Termite Terrace, about Chuck Jones and Briz Freeling and Carl Stalling and that era. Um, After I don't know him, but I found him online, and I just popped him a note. You won't know me from Adam. What about that Termite Terrace movie? I really think that could be something. Oh, he was just so hurt and so bruised by his experience with Back in Action. He goes, I'll never work for Warner Brothers. Nope, sorry, won't do that. I won't do that.
yeah,
It's a
it's
shame.
understandable.
It's a shame. Everybody in this business called show has moments where they're like, that hurt. Or, ooh, I was treated poorly. So I kind of get that. But boy, I think he's got one heck of a film still inside him.
Nice.
So, as somebody that's grown up with the original Looney Tunes, has there been any Looney Tune characters that you wish they would bring back that hasn't seen shelf time? That's
Well,
some of the
I'm so politically incorrect that Slowpoke Rodriguez, nothing offends me. In fact, I wish people could look at something and say, "Oh my God, that's so funny. It's just like me," or "My cousin's like that." You got to laugh at yourself. You got to laugh at our similarities, our differences. Just because something is similar doesn't mean it's an insult. If you get two people in the room, one person says, "I'm insulted by that," and one person says, "No, I find it funny." Which one's right? Which one's right? And that's a question for you guys. Which one's right?
It's up to the holder.
They're both right. They both are
entitled.
They're both entitled
We're allowed.
their opinion. But you don't ban something because this one's insulted. I mean, God,
Exactly.
some of my favorite comedy is Joan Rivers, Don Rickles, Mel Brooks. I mean, come on.
Yup.
Come on.
Yeah.
To say we can't do certain things today, I think prevents people from being happy. You choose happiness. You choose to find that's funny. That's really hysterical. I love that. Ooh, that's so off color. It just makes me giddy. Whatever. And if you don't like it, change the channel. Don't buy the ticket. But I think it is so much healthier to be able to laugh at life and yourself rather than I'm supposed to be offended by that, aren't I? Other characters.
Well, being offended makes you feel progressive. So.
And it makes you feel like you're doing something righteous, and you're not. You're just being self-righteous. There were a lot of little incidental characters from the past that they brought back for the Looney Tunes cartoons. I played oh gosh, well, who was it? I played Gabby Goat in New Looney Tunes.
Yes.
And I played the Gremlin in New Looney Tunes.
These blockbuster bombs don't go off unless you hit them just right.
I love that they brought back these little one-offs. And those cartoons were very Bob Clampett, Tex Avery, and I had never done anything with that flavor since we started. Most of everything we did, I mean, the Looney Tunes show was very different. It was like a sitcom. The designs were very different. The writing was hysterical. The writers and producers came from the Groundlings. It didn't have to be the Looney Tunes. It could have been any character because the writing was so good. It just happened to be. It was like the Looney Tunes were doing a sitcom playing these characters.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who said that's their favorite Looney Tunes content over everything else we've done. I thought New Looney Tunes, which had very, very different design, was some of the best writing I've ever had to work with. And there's been stuff I'm like, yeah, these people don't really know what they're doing with these characters, but okay, I have a job today, yay. And you know what's nice is that, and this is, I've never heard the word no. I would do a take, I'm like, that's just not really well written for Porky. Hey, can I try one take just for me? They never say no. Whether they use it or not is their discretion. But they're so collaborative, and they're so, everyone. I've never worked with the exception of those shorts. I've not worked with anybody who didn't want to hear the actor's input.
But in this case here also, at least for the character itself, it gives you the opportunity to at least try to see if you can get it more in line to what your vision would be in this case as well. May not work because obviously it's up to the editor and the rest of everybody else involved, but at least you're giving it the best shot.
I was doing a session for Duck Dodgers at that time. It was Joe Alasky doing Daffy, Duck Dodgers, a brilliant actor. Could be difficult at times, but that's okay. He really was a perfectionist and liked what he was doing, but he couldn't nail what they were asking him to do. And they, with the producers in the back and the voice director, everything they're saying, it wasn't connecting with him. So we took a break, and I pulled him aside. I said, Joe, less Chuck Jones, more Bob Clampett. And he went, oh, nailed it. I think those of us that do these characters, you know, especially like Jeff Bergen, just know these characters really, really, really well. So I had to connect with Joe creatively with legacy rather than adjectives. You know, trying a little bit more intense, or you know, a little bit more whatever. It's like, no. Think about the style of the animator, of the director, that connected with him, and I knew it would.
Now, I figure we should probably bring this up at this point. This is something that you and I mentioned prior. The anime world, before anime was a thing in the U.S., there was an anime that was ported over here, originally called Tekkaman Blade, had 2 seasons on that, one of which actually ended up here in the States under the name of Technoman. Prior to the era of Pokemon, prior to the era of Dragon Ball Z might have had like its first season on CW before it went to Funimation. That might not even, it might be as far as it got. But well before like anime became the mainstream, was an anime with a massive cult following that still draws eyes today from that whole mech era.
Yeah.
So on that invite on that, you said you may have a story or two that may tie directly to Tekkaman Blade.
Well, first of all, we did 2 seasons, and they only aired 1 on UPN. So I got a call from a anime producer, writer, casting director, voice director named Tom Weiner. And Tom said, hey, I've got this new show called Technoman, and I would love you to play the lead. I said, he goes, but it's non-union. And I said, Tom, I can't work non-union. You know that. I'd love to, and thank you very much, but I can't. So we cast it. Cut to UPN wants to start a cartoon. For them, it was a Sunday morning lineup. And because it was going to UPN, the show was now going union.
Interesting.
They also found that the lead character, Technoman, I believe his non-techno personality was a character named Blade. And some other company owned a character named Blade, and legally they had to change the name. I think they changed it to Slade.
They did, yeah.
Okay, so that meant that every reference. Ooh, are you okay?
Yep.
Every reference to the name Blade had to be re-recorded as Slade.
Yeah.
I don't know who had voiced him when it was non-union, but the story I got from Tom was this actor's agent asked for a fortune to go back and re-record it. And they were like, we can't pay that. I get a call from Tom Weiner like at 1 in the morning one day. He's telling me this whole story. It's union. We can pay you union rates. I beg of you, please, can you come in and play this character? This is going to be technical for a lot of your audience here. When you record cartoons that aren't anime, it's called prelay, meaning you record the voices first and they animate to you. For people who have seen Mrs. Doubtfire, that scene at the beginning of the movie where Robin Williams is doing it to picture, that's not how it's done. But it looked great for Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay, so at the time, I was the promo voice for Disney Channel. I was the guy saying, you know, coming up next on Magical World of Disney. That was a full-time job. I was doing that Monday through Friday. So I said to Tom, all right, I can do this, but I can only do it in the evenings after 6 o'clock because I by contract I have to make myself available to Disney Channel Monday through Friday. I was able to do cartoons and stuff around it, but I had to be scheduled. They needed to do 46 episodes of this Technoman thing. Okay. I also said, oh, by the way, anime doesn't pay plus 10 for your agent. And at the time, the dubbing rate, even if it was union, was $50 an hour, guaranteed 2 hours work, no residuals. That was in 1990, whatever.
Interesting.
It's a little bit more now, but it ain't much. So I said to Tom, I will do this. I want prelay rates per episode plus 10, and I need you to book this through my agent because they control my schedule. And he goes, done. And I thought to myself, damn, what did that other actor's agent ask for? Because I went from $50 an hour, guaranteed 2 hours of work, to I don't know what scale was back then, but it was probably $600-700 an episode. And they paid it to me. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. I had started working on a show called Eagle Riders before Technoman, and Eagle Riders had been dubbed years earlier with Casey Kasem and a whole bunch of other people, and I forget what it was called. We did like 4 episodes. Technoman, got to get that done. Put Eagle Riders on the shelf. I'm doing Technoman. I finished Technoman. Eagle Riders comes back, and they said, we can start working on that again. I said, I want the same deal as Technoman. And they said, well, we can't pay that. I said, well, then I'm not interested. We'd only done 3 or 4 episodes. And they were like, well, we're going to recast you. I said, okay. And they said, with another actor. I said, I'm happy to recommend some actors I know. I know some very talented voice actors who have the same sort of sound as me. I don't think I ever worked for Saban again until a show called Totally Spies years later.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't tell Haim Saban I'm not interested. But I was busy. And you know what? I did the entire run of Technoman, 46 episodes in the evening after a full day's work. And I was tired. So if I'm gonna do it, I got to get paid the same rate.
Nice. And you know what? Like I said, in this case, it was a good series too. But you had a good point on this, and this is where I think people don't understand voice work necessarily. With so much anime being ported over constantly, not just Dragon Ball, but you got Food Wars coming over. You got the time I resurrected as a slime. Just everything being ported over because the animation is already done. A lot of times even the script has to match the mouth movements. Regular animation, you record everything, then you come back in, maybe just do some cleanups a little bit later. Right. In this case here, it's a lot more complicated because the script has to be built kind of around that, unless the camera is not on that individual character, in which case they can obviously have some flexibility.
And I'll go one step further. If you're the last person to record in a scene, you've got all the other actors to hear it to work off of. If you're the first actor, you don't even know their intent. And you're right. they're so good at what they do. They have to translate the Japanese into an English story and try to match the mouth flaps. Anime pays just a fraction of what prelay pays. It should be just the opposite, because anime is such a difficult skill set, much more difficult than prelay. But on the other side of the coin here, anime fans are the best, the absolute best. Anime fans. I mean, I went to my first anime convention. I forget when. Might have been the early '90s in Denver, and a friend of mine lived in Denver, and I told her, I'm doing a convention. Meet me at my hotel. We'll get dinner. And she calls me from the parking lot. She goes, "What kind of convention is this?" I said, "Why are you asking?" She says, "Well, I'm walking into the lobby and I'm the only person without a tail." And I said, "Oh, I'll explain it to you. I think those are furries. Yeah, I'll explain it to you." It's a very fantastic community of fans. And God, we're so great. But I'll tell you, with AI, I got it. I predict that it won't be too long before they're going to take that original Japanese recording and AI generate it to English.
You know, you see what people can do even on YouTube with AI. You know, and obviously I'm not talking like, you know, sites like Suno or 11 Labs. I'm talking like the actual AI work that's involved in this stuff.
It's great.
And
it's brilliant.
It's beautiful stuff, but it's also very, very divisive at the same time.
Yeah, it is, but you can't fight the tide that is technology. Vaudeville hated silent movies because they said the general public won't sit in a dark room looking at lights flashing through plastic on a sheet. They want live entertainers. It mirrors what they're saying today. Nobody wants AI content. They want real actors. If the story's good, they want it. The studio said the same thing about television. No one's going to watch content in their living room on a box. They want cinema. No, they wanted television, and that's when the movie studios got into the television business. People have to get off their arrogant high horse and realize if the content is good, forget how it's made. If the content is good, the public is going to consume it. There used to be model makers that made the Star Wars ships. Then they became CGI. This is the tide that is technology. You cannot stop it. Well, what we have to do as actors is demand and guarantee in our contracts, in our union contracts, consent and profit sharing.
Well, I know the new contract just came through. Sean Astin just came up with a new one just literally in the last couple of weeks, too. So, you know, AI was a big part of that. And protecting it.
Well, are you talking about the TV theatrical contract?
I'm talking the SAG contract, yeah.
The TV theatrical contract.
Yeah.
But that was weeks and weeks ago. Well, I mean, they keep improving on it. I'm about to chair the animation contract negotiations. It's not perfect, but it's better than no protections. Non-union has zero protections. Yeah. So that's our advantage. And if you don't want people stealing your work and used in perpetuity, if you're a voice actor, and animation is over 90% union, so we're the only voiceover genre that is still 90% union. Everything else is 80% non-union.
Yeah, it's a high number too. I didn't realize it was that high. I don't know. I just fell off buildings back then. So anyway, go ahead, Rob.
So with it being August, there is a wonderful movie that comes out at the end of this month. And I was wondering, is any of your characters in it? I know they showed it at San Diego Comic-Con, and I am referring to Coyote versus Acme. You don't have to say what characters, but are any of your characters?
My characters are in it. My characters are in it. I'm not.
Okay. Sorry, I should have worded it that way.
Well, another actor has gone after these characters. Nothing I can do about that. That's it's a generational thing, I think, and it's something I will elaborate about in a book I'm writing. But
yes,
it's something that we never saw in when I was coming up. I'll give you an example. My voiceover guru teacher was a guy named Dawes Butler.
Yes.
Yes.
We've heard that name a lot on this side.
Oh my goodness, I studied with Dawes, and people Google Dawes Butler, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Elroy Jetson. He was the best. Nancy Cartwright studied with Dawes, Bill Farmer, Mona Marshall, Corey Burton, so many people. And I got an audition from my agent. They're looking for a new Captain Crunch. Dawes was Captain Crunch. So I called Dawes up because I didn't know if he knew about it. And he said, oh, yeah, I know about it. There's a new ad agency. My contract expired. So, yeah, I had 20, 30 years. So they're going new. And I said, well, I just want to let you know I'm not reading for this. And he goes, oh, you should read for it because I'm not doing it. You want to come to my house? I'll coach you. I said, sure. You would call another actor and say, here's what's going down. Yep. Either I'm not doing it or, I mean, years ago, they were auditioning Luke Skywalker for a Star Wars game. And first I turned it down because I said to my agent, I can't do Mark Hamill. And she called the producers to say I'm passing. And the producers called back and said, I think his voice is in the ballpark. So I get to the session and I said, you guys, I don't do Mark Hamill. And they said, don't do Mark Hamill. We want to hear you play Luke Skywalker. I went, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I can do that. So I ended up booking it. And I said to my agent, before you say yes, please call Mark's agent to find out what's going down. Because if he's asking for more money, it's a contract dispute. Or if he didn't know it was happening, or if he wants this job, he should have it. It was at a time where he was kind of distancing himself from the franchise. He didn't want it. But I wouldn't take it if he did. It's a different world we're living in now, guys. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, in this case, Mark Hamill gave his unofficial blessing on that, and it clearly worked out.
Well, he kind of sort of ish did. I mean, years ago, we were on a voiceover panel at Comic-Con, and Mark Evanier moderates the voice actor panel. And he makes some joke. He goes, we should do a dueling Luke Skywalker here because, Mark, you do it and Bob does it. And Mark stands up and goes, you what? And he knew. But it was a funny bit for Comic-Con. Yeah. And by the way, I'm sorry, he is Luke Skywalker, no matter how you slice it. Fair. The man is that character. I've done games. I did Robot Chicken as Luke several times. But, oh my goodness. No. Mark Hamill, I'm not worthy. He is Luke Skywalker.
Did you do the bit on Robot Chicken where Leia just straight up owns Luke? Where he's like, I can't believe he's gone. Oh, to the 80-year-old man who's suddenly, that you just met yesterday, suddenly die?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
That was one of the best bits I ever saw on Robot Chicken.
I know I did one where with it was the Yo Mama.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yo Mama's so fat. Jabba the Hutt said, "Damn."
Your faith in your friends is yours.
Faith in your mama.
What was that?
I said, Yo Mama's so fat. Jabba the Hutt said, "Damn."
I did that
he starts beating Palpatine all the way through on that one.
Yeah, I did that. I did like a half a dozen of them. But I don't. But the only reason I remember the Yo Mama one is because Seth Green, who was the producer, creator, voice actor, voice director. He's such a great director. He's literally next to me going like this one, like Yo Mama, because I'm so not good at that, and he is so good at everything. Seth Green is quite possibly one of the best voice directors in the business.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's been 20 years on Robot Chicken, almost 30 on Family Guy.
Oh, sure.
I mean, he in this case here, obviously people remember him more from initially Buffy or Austin Powers, but growing up and working alongside Seth MacFarlane as much as who came in from Cartoon Network.
Right.
There was almost this growth process, and it's funny because actually Robot Chicken and Family Guy will throw barbs at each other, inside the shows themselves.
I know. Isn't that cool? I think that's so cool.
It's funny. You talk a little bit about the voice acting and the changes that are happening right now. And it is funny because so much more is done remotely in a regard like this. I mean, you look at Mark Hamill. I mean, we'll go this way. His career between the Joker, which obviously is, basically chose to retire.
Which is pure genius. That's the pure genius.
And which became Fire Lord Ozai essentially in Avatar: Last Airbender. There's an entire generation that knows that voice, and then as an afterthought, it's like, oh, that guy was Luke Skywalker, instead of the other way around.
No kidding. And I've had people come up to me at fan conventions where it's like, you are my Porky. I've been doing Porky predominantly since 1990. So that's a long time. What's that? 36 years? Holy cow! Yeah. So if you're a college kid, you might. And for so long, the classic Looney Tunes weren't on TV. They were nowhere to be found. So unless you had the discs or the VHS, you weren't. I remember when the Bugs Bunny Tweety show on ABC.
Yep, in the 80s.
I remember it's Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon. I remember all that stuff. And look, I was a fan well before I ever did the voices. I watched that stuff. I get mad when I saw an edit for, PC reasons or whatever. I was like, that's the scene where blah, blah, blah happens. Well, they don't want kids to see blah, blah, blah. They were doing that since Saturday morning cartoons. But yeah, people will sometimes tell me, as they got older and they would watch a classic Looney Tunes, especially like the Porky before Mel Blanc got the job because he wasn't the original Porky. They were like, wow, it was so different. I'm like, well, yeah, because it evolved, just like we were saying earlier, the character and the styles and the personalities just evolved.
Rob?
Wow. It's funny you talk about earlier about I know it was common back then when they wanted to recast the character or something like that. They would just go, oh, this person doesn't want to do the character anymore. So then you take their word. But then I know Billy West had an example with I think they brought him back to be like Slimer. And they said, oh, Frank Welker doesn't want to do the part. Well, he just took it as word value and then found out later Frank Welker had no idea that they were that they were trying to pay somebody less money.
We all would call each other. What's the story? What's going down? And sometimes it's like Dawes where they want somebody different. And that's, by the way, Dawes coaching me was a mistake because Dawes coached me like Captain Crunch, and they wanted to change the sound of the character. That was a mistake. I didn't know that. But Robert, you're absolutely right. My generation would pick up the phone or text and say, do you know about this, first of all, and what's going down? So many times over the last decades, all of a sudden you see auditions for The Simpsons, for Futurama, because the cast is in a negotiation, tug of war. And I teach animation voiceover, and I tell my students, don't do it. This is not how you want to get into the business, and here's why. If you ever get on a show as popular as Futurama or The Simpsons, you wouldn't want your fellow actors doing that to you. Sure. You've earned this negotiation. Number two, if you get the job, do you know what it's going to be like to go to a session with your fellow actors who think that you're kind of scummy to go after another actor's character? Now, there are characters that many people have played. Many people have played Spider-Man. It's not like a classic character like a Looney Tunes or a Mickey Mouse. I mean, Disney is so good at saying, this is the actor we're using. Yep. And when Rusey passed away, when Wayne passed away, and they needed Mickey and Minnie, these actors had done it forever. And that's a difficult task. Well, Warner Brothers told me, Kathleen Helpy was in charge of Warner Classic Animation at the time. I said, did you guys ever think about what happens when Mel Blanc is gone? They're like, nope, just pretended like he's going to be here forever. Never planned it, never discussed it. And because, there was also a discussion that his son Noel was going to take over. And he did do some things just after his dad passed away. But, wasn't ideal. But my point is, in 1990, in 1980, nobody thinks about what's going to happen when George O'Hanlon was George Jetson and literally died saying the last line in the movie, The Jetsons, on the stage at Hanna-Barbera. literally. And
Wow.
and I think Jeff Bergman did have to go in and sweeten some of the things that they still needed to do. Jeff Bergman is a genius and a pussycat of a guy, so talented. But yeah, so anybody watching this and interested in getting into voiceover, don't
I may
step.
have a few leads to send your way, by the way. We should
What's
talk about
that?
that.
What's that?
I have a couple leads I should send your way if you have interest.
Sure. Yeah, I just do
Yeah.
private Zoom coaching now, but
Yep.
yeah, happy to. And I talk to people online all the time. I'm answering questions
Yes.
and giving advice throughout the day. It's how I kind of take breaks between auditions and jobs. But people shouldn't reach out to me unless they want honesty, because
Yes.
I never sugarcoat. But I'm a
I'll
big
talk to you about this after the fact, but he does have credibility outside the voice world, but from a PA announcing standpoint. So there's someone specific in mind.
Okay.
So, but yeah. Rob, what else you got, if anything? Actually, talk about the book you got coming up.
Yeah, I was gonna say what inspired you to want to do a book? Is it that you tell these stories all the time
Yeah.
and you want to just put them in a book so that way if someone says, "Hey, I got this question," you're like, "It's in my book. Go read it."
I had no desire to write a book. I'd been asked, "You should write a book," or told, "Hey, what?" And people wanted me to do like a how-to book on voiceover. I'm like, they've been written. I mean, Yuri Lowenthal. They're oh my God, their book is great. Sue Blue wrote a book years ago. There's so many good books out there. D. Bradley Baker's I Want to Be a Voice Actor.com. The Bible.
Yes.
It's brilliant. I had nothing else to
Yes.
say. So last year, we had a fire. January of 2025, we had a fire. The fire erupted when we were on a cruise. Okay, so most unrelaxing cruise I've ever been on, because I was glued to CNN and texting with my neighbors. We came back on a Saturday, and we're driving down the road that leads to our street, and we're seeing a plume of smoke too close for comfort. So we're like, well, what do we take? We got to plan to evacuate if they say you got to evacuate. So we go to our back storage room, and my husband's like, should we take any nominations? I'm like, no, let them burn. Look, give me another one. Think like great grandma's wedding certificate, things like that, things that are not replaceable. My husband found a box of 40 years of my day planner calendars. In fact, I still use them. And this is this year's. They look like this. 40 plus of them. My entire life, my entire career, every job, every audition, every agent hiring and firing, every callback in these books. We didn't have to evacuate. Life was good. And I started thumbing through these books, and I'm like, oh, this is my whole life. So I'm going to write a memoir. And the memoir is divided into 3 sections. Chapter 1 is where I was born, St. Louis. Chapter 2 is Cincinnati, where we moved to Cincinnati from age 8 to 14. Chapter 3 is Los Angeles. Chapter 4 is the first entry in the first calendar. And I'm still writing, guys. I'm only on the first draft, and I'm up to like 2016.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not a writer, but I'm a great storyteller. So a lot of stories I've told here are in the book. I elaborate a little bit more in the book. It's fun. It's cathartic. I go through the book and I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. And there's a lot of stuff I can't talk about because I served in leadership at SAG and AFTRA. I was on the board of governors at the Television Academy. I'm in the Actors Branch Executive Committee at the Motion Picture Academy. I can't talk about behind the scenes confidential stuff, but I can talk about a lot of really interesting people and stories. And how people ask all the time, how could they snub so-and-so on the in memoriam on the Emmys? Well, here's how it's done. Nobody's ever been snubbed. Here's the process. Here's what you don't know. So I'm going to be telling a lot of behind the scenes stuff about that. Which, of course, I can't talk about everything because some of it is confidential. But that's the kind of stuff people are going to get and learn. Not just my career, but stuff I did outside the booth.
Nice. Do you have a rough idea of when that book's going to get released? I know you're still in the first draft. You got a ways to go, but do you have a time frame?
Not a clue. No, I don't, because the first agent I sent a proposal to said yes, and I was like, well, I don't want to knee jerk the first yes. So I said, I'm gonna look for other people. And she goes, yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. So I have zero idea because I'm also very busy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Even finding time to write for an hour, it's hard. It's hard to do. But I'm stopping at in 2025. I'm stopping when I find the books.
Okay.
That's the end of the book is that what instigated the book. So if it comes out in 5 years, it's funny, that first agent I talked to said, here's the deal. If it does very well, and 5-10 years after this comes out, you're like, I've got book 2. Okay, there we go. Because I don't plan to retire ever. There's no reason to.
Nice.
Right. Words of Deadpool. You'll be doing this until you're 90.
I'll be doing this until I can't. Until they say we're not interested anymore.
Yeah,
and I've got a lot of friends who, God bless them, Michael Bell just turned 85 this week. I worked with Michael Bell on Toy Story 5. And he's a pussycat of a guy, and he's so freaking talented, and that voice is just as good, and his energy is just as good as it ever was.
I remember him from Dungeons and Dragons way back in the day.
Well, if you're very old, he did a series of commercials for Kraft for Parquet margarine, where people would be like, "Ooh, it's delicious butter," and the little butter container would open up and go, "Butter, butter, butter."
I remember that. Yes.
People of a certain age who knew TV in the 70s and 80s, they know that, as well as they know Liberty Bibberty or the progressive gal. I forget the character's name.
Flo, whatever her name is.
Flo.
Yeah. There we go. Thank you very much. Yeah. Commercial icons. They don't have commercial icons the way I was the voice of McDonald's French fries for the Happy Meal commercials for like 15 years, and they don't even do that anymore because you can't have cute characters sell fast food to kids because fast food's bad for them. But they want them to come. It's kind of silly.
Ronald McDonald hasn't been in a commercial for, I think, 12 years now,
or more easily.
Or how Taco Bell used to have the Taco Bell dog.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was Carlos Alazraqui.
Yes.
But I will.
Yes.
But you know what's interesting? I think Ronald McDonald is still in the Macy's parade as a balloon.
Still character in Japanese commercials. That I know is a fact.
And they're skinny. What's the deal?
Well, yeah, they're proper skinny over there too. Yeah,
that's right.
4% obesity rate. Something you will not find here. Or with me. So. But appreciate it. Rob, anything else? Do you think you're okay?
I was going to say, has there been any characters that you would like to voice that you haven't had the chance to voice yet?
It hasn't happened yet. I'm not a psychic.
No.
Yeah, it's a question I get all the time. Is what is it you haven't done that you'd really like to do? The next thing that comes around. I don't know what that's going to be. I mean, this week I had some auditions for some really fun stuff, but they're just auditions. When my agent contacts me and says, "Hey, I've got a booking for you next Saturday for blah, blah, blah," my first question is, did I read for that? Because once I've read and sent it away, it's out of my head. You can't hold on to stuff like that because you'll go crazy. You'll drive yourself nuts. Yeah. And I'll go back in my files and listen and go, "Oh, yeah, I read for that." Now, one of two things goes through my mind. "Oh, yeah, I read for that. Wow, they fell for that audition? That sucked." Or I'll go, "Oh yeah, I kind of felt good about that one. I felt good." But you're gonna go through the motions on an audition because nothing creative comes to mind and book it. And you're gonna work a character where you're like, "Man, I was bored for this," and not even get a call back. Actors, don't try to figure it out. You never will. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just they chose this. They didn't choose that. They want a celebrity. You're not a celebrity. They want somebody new they've never worked with. You've worked for them a million times. They went older. They went younger. Whatever. Don't try to figure it out. But today's audition is an insurance policy for something else. If they love you and they passed on you, they didn't pass because you sucked. They passed because they went a different way. But that casting director is going to remember you.
Sure.
Yes.
100%.
And if you had an opportunity to have Porky cross over in any universe, it doesn't matter if it's live action or cartoon, like maybe Roger Rabbit kind of style.
Yeah.
What would you have? What would you want if you had the opportunity to
Oh
have a?
wow, that's a great question. Well, you know, we did. Porky was in an episode of Robot Chicken,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and that was fun. It was very adult, which is why it was on a time slot called Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that was a cartoon where at the end Porky Pig said,
That's all, bitches.
and I was like, at the session I said, "Can I do this?" And it's owned by Cartoon Network, and Cartoon Network is Warner Brothers, and they had to approve the script. So I was like, "Okay, I did."
Don't forget though, Mel Blanc did do that one where he hit his thumb with a hammer.
Son of a gun.
Do you know where that came from?
Was that?
It was just a Christmas gag reel that they made to show at a Christmas party amongst the employees, and nobody ever thought there'd be a thing called television. Nobody thought there'd be a thing called the internet.
No.
Nobody thought there'd be a thing called freeze frame. And there's all kinds of things hidden in these cartoons that the animators knew, but we didn't.
Yep. Good old Easter
One of my
eggs.
father's favorite Porky Pig quotes was actually the hammer one.
It's a great one.
I see it goes. Yeah, you thought I was going to say it's son of a bitch, didn't you?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great.
I have to ask this as a weird little favor, and depending, we'll fix this in post if I need to. If we were in a situation where Porky Pig was transported across the vast multiverse into a different series, let's just pretend for a second, possibly Dragon Ball Z, and Porky Pig had to fire off a Kamehameha, what would that sound like?
I don't know because I've never seen Dragon Ball Z.
Fair enough.
So I don't. Well, you tell me. What does it sound like?
Literally just basically yelling out Kamehameha.
Kamehameha.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. Porky Pig cannot stutter on
H's.
vowels or H's. Only
that's all
consonants.
Hmm.
So I probably will say it again. Kami what?
Kamehameha.
Take that.
I love it, sir. Thank you. Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, people have.
Yeah, I thought that.
I don't watch cartoons.
Okay. Yeah, you don't
You
even
know,
watch
I
it.
don't.
Yeah,
I mean, I work in them all day long. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah.
But now I will tell you, I'm the promo voice for a network called MeTV Tunes, which is
Yes.
which is all classic cartoons, and it's kind of like Legacy Cartoon Network, Boomerang, and oh my gosh, the content is so good, and I get to see what they're going to be broadcasting before they launch, because I'm doing the promos, weeks, sometimes months before. Now those I'm having a blast watching. And I will sometimes have MeTV Tunes on as my white noise in the background because it's the Fleischer Popeyes, the black and white, really good Popeyes. Yep. And it's early Terry Toons Mighty Mouse and early Casper the Friendly Ghost. And then they'll go into, I got to be careful because there's some new shows launching that I just recorded. I can't say what they are. Sure. All I'll tell you is I was a kid of the 70s. So I remember in 1969, first run Scooby-Doo on Saturday mornings, and it was on ABC, I believe, or no, CBS, opposite NBC's HR Puffin stuff. So, and I didn't have a VCR because nobody did. So my point is, I lived for this content. So to be able to have a part in doing the promos, promoting this stuff to fans, it's kind of a dream job.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, before we let you go, where can we find you on social medias? And if you want to plug your website and where they can find more information if they want to, reach out to you about being a voice actor and stuff like that. Plug yourself.
I'm all over Facebook. It's just surf my name. You'll find me on Facebook. I think on Instagram, Bergen.Bob. I think I'm at Bob Bergen on Twitter. I don't know. I mean, people find me. I'm. You kind of hinted about my calling Mel Blanc by finding him in the phone book. I'm in the phone book.
Yeah.
I am, and there still are phone books, but there's a white page phone book, but it's online. You'll find me because I always wanted to be accessible to people. So
Nice.
People don't seem to have a problem finding me.
One thing I will say before we let you go too is, the thing I admire about your journey is you never gave up. Like you didn't take no as an answer. And like I mentioned about you calling Mel and be like, hey, do I need an agent? You were asking for specific details. And for somebody at like the age of 14 to do stuff like that, it's really cool. And then I know you had the opportunity with Casey Kasem when you were 18 and was like, yo, I want to take your job.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I didn't think it was unusual to go to the people that had the job I wanted. I think social media has actually made people less resilient, and they're not as innovative. I didn't think twice about calling Mel Blanc. Today people are asking people on the same or smaller boat as they are, how do I get into this? Why aren't you going to the top people working in the field? Why are you asking an actor who also doesn't know what to do? Because they're going to give you mediocre advice. So reach out to Rob Paulson. Reach out to Candy Miner.
Yes.
Reach out to Kari Walgren. Reach out to Tara Strong. Reach out to me.
Jim Cummings.
And I didn't have Talking Tunes. I didn't have you guys. I didn't have Jim Cummings' podcast, Nancy Cartwright's podcast. I want to be a voiceactor.com. There was no .com. If I was able to do it without these resources other than a telephone, goodness, people, you can do it too.
Nice.
Yeah. Literally.
We're going to wrap up in a second, but just stay on for a couple minutes after I end the stream. Just a couple light, easy things, nothing bad, I promise. But go ahead, Rob.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we want to thank our wonderful and legendary and amazing guest, Bob Bergen. And this is Tales from the Film Set.